To create a file, call open. You can create text file, binary file, and a raw binary file. In this video, we are going to talk only about text files. To create a text file, you can specify one mandatory parameter and 7 optional parameters. We are going to deep dive into these parameters one by one. The mandatory parameter, the file. You either specify the path of the file or an integer representing a file descriptor. If it's a path, it can be relative or it can be absolute. In our case, we are specifying a relative path because we are specifying only the name of the file that is available in the parent directory. This is why we can call open with that name without specifying the entire parameter. The second parameter, or the second way to specify a file, is to use a file descriptor. File descriptor can indicate a specific type of files, usually connected to the terminal, like an output file or an input file or an error file. For example, we can say here, if we check in Python the error file number, we can call sys.scdr file number or file no function. If we run our code, we can see here that the number of sys.scdr is 2. If we want the output file, we can check it out too. scdout and call our code again. You can see that the number is equal to 1, which means that we can actually, instead of specifying a path here, just saying 1. Now we are going to talk about the first optional parameter, the buffering. The buffering, each number you specify for the buffering has a special meaning. -1, it means that you are using the default system buffering. If it's equal to 0, it means that you are disabling the buffering, but you can't disable the buffering for text files. If you specify 1 for text files, it means that you are choosing buffering line by line, or the buffer is set to buffer by line, and if it's a number greater than 1, it means that it will be equal to an approximative value to the one you specified. To check the system buffering, to know what is the value of the system buffering, you can call the io.defaultBufferSize to just get an idea of the default buffering. So here is the default buffering for this system, is this value, 8192. The system buffering by default, or the buffering by default, it's equal to -1 if you do not specify any buffering at all. Now, we are talking about the mode. There are several values that you can specify for the mode, and you can combine also certain type of mode. So, if you specify R, it means that you are opening the file for reading, and it's also the default, which means that you can not specify any mode, it will be by default open for reading. Writing, if you open a file with the W mode, it will be automatically open for writing, but it will create the file if it exists. The contrary, with the X mode, you open the file for exclusive creation, which means that it will face if the file already exists. A, open the file for writing, and if the file exists, it will append to the end of the file, if, as I said, the file exists. Now, with the reading, writing, and creation mode and appending mode, you can add other value that will help you specify the type of the file. For example, if you add a B to your mode, it means that you are opening a binary file, or you want to create a binary file. If you do not specify anything with these modes, or you specify a T, it means that you are opening a text file. So by default, it's reading. In fact, by default, it's reading and text mode file. So if you specify only R, it means RT. If you specify W, it will mean WT. And if you specify nothing, it will automatically mean RT, unless you specify, of course, B or the binary mode. Now, the last option or the last parameter that you can add combined with the others is the plus. Plus means that you are adding a feature or the other option to the mode you selected for opening the file. For example, if you open the mode for reading, adding plus will mean that you can also write to the file. If you open the file with W, it will mean also, if you add the plus, it will mean also that you are also reading from the file. So it's usually means opening the file for updating, for reading and writing. In our case, we are going to open the file in reading and writing mode or in updating mode. For the encoding, by default it's set to no, but actually it will use the local encoding if you do not specify any encoding. To know what is the local encoding, you can run the code by calling local.getEncoding and it will tell you the local encoding. Here the local encoding is CP in the system is CP1252. So for now we are going to keep encoding local, then we will change it for the next optional parameter. The next optional one is errors. There is a word or keyword that you can use to specify to the function or to Python how to handle data errors when you, for example, don't know how to decode or encode a string. For example, here we did not have any problem, and even if we used a strict error handling. But if, let's say, I will add to my line this emoji, will add an emoji, and I will see how my code will handle that emoji. Can it read from that file? And no, it raised an error. It couldn't read that file, that value from the file, so it raised an error. Why? It said that there is a problem with the codec, and it raised an error instead of just printing something else, because I set the error handling to strict. If I change the value in place, it will do something else, as we are going to see. It will not raise an error. It will not raise an error. Here it is. But as you can see, it didn't print the character as it should be. It replaced the character with other unreadable characters. Why? Because we set the error handling to replace. You can check in this page the list of encoding available in Python that you can use with Python, and also the list of errors handling type that are available. For example, strict, ignore, or replace. For example, replace for encoding, it will use interrogation point, and for decoding, it will use this symbol. This is the one we saw in the code. To rectify this or to correct this, I'm going to change the encoding from local to UTF-8 and see what will happen. If I run this, I can see that it encoded correctly. Here we can see in the painting, before painting the content, I will show you how to read content from the file. When I printed the file object, it printed text IO wrapper. So when you create a text file, this is the class that you create. So this file is of type text IO wrapper. We will see later that for each type of file, we'll have each corresponding class. Even if you change, for example, you change the mode from reading to writing to updating, you will have all different classes for different files for the binary mode, for example. So now after seeing the encoding and the errors, there is this other optional parameter, new line. Now we are going to talk about the new line optional parameter. So you can specify these values. You can set it to none. You can set it to an empty string. You can set it to the new line character or the line feed character. You can set it to carriage return character. This is an R actually. And you can set it to carriage return and new line character. But what does it mean? We are going to start with the reading. So when we are reading the stream, when we are reading our text file, if we set the new line to none, it will mean that the universal ending line, one of those, are considered to be new lines, are considered to be the end of new lines, and at the same time they will be translated or to \n character. We are going to check this out. I'm going to open my file and I'm going to set the new line value to none. Okay. Now if I read my file, I read the content of my file, I can call the content.file.read and then print that content. Read the content of the file by calling the method read from the file object I've just created and put the content in the content variable, then print the content. I can do that. The problem is when I print, the line ending will not be so obvious. So if I print this, it printed the line. It's okay. That's the line of the text. But was it a \n? Was it a carriage return? What was it? So to be sure or to be aware of what happened, we are going to, instead of reading the entire content, we are going to read the lines. This is why we are calling file.readLines, which will read our file by lines and will put each line in a list. So content, instead of being just this text, it will be a list of lines. So when we will print the content, instead of printing just the text, it will print a list of lines. And I do that. It printed the list. This is the first list, the first item. This is the second item. If you can see here, this is the first line and then \n. It means that it identified a universal ending line. It means that it could have been a carriage return, it could have been a line feed, or both, but it identified that line and then, or that ending, line ending, and translated it to \n. How do we know that this was a translation? Simply because if we call this function that indicates the system line or the line separator used by the system. So if I print the ASCII code of the line separator used by the system by calling os.linesep and I run my code, it will tell me that actually the line or the actual line separator is for the system is carriage return line feed. So this is the actual line ending here, but it was translated to \n. Why? Because I specified the new line to none. Now if I specify the new line value to the other values that we can use, so we can use also the empty string. So if it's equal to the empty string, it will keep the universal new line as it is. It will consider and keep the universal new line as it is. It's like known, but the difference that it will not be translated. To check this out, I'm going to set the new line value to an empty string and then run my code again. I didn't change the file, I just changed the value of new line. So if we are correct, the new lines should be backslash carrier return and line feed. If I do that, that's the case. So it kept the ending, the lines ending in the file as they were. There was no translation. Now the other allowed parameter is \n or line feed, which means that for each line it will look for this character. When it finds this character, it will recognize the end of the line. We already have this character as the end of the lines, so there will be no change in our code, but it also will not translate our code, so our line ending. So if I run my code, I will keep the same. If I say here new line equal to \n, I run my code. It kept the lines as they were because this is the ending of the line and considered all this as one line. The same here, it considered all this as the other line. The other recognized value is carrier return. It will look in our line for carrier return and it will consider it as the ending of the line. Our problem is that we have carrier return, but we also have another character. So it will consider that other character belonging to the second line that will also end with the carrier return. So if I change my reading here and for my opening, I change the value of, so if I change the value of new line for my open function, I set it to carrier return and I run the code again. It returns 3 lines. The first line ended with carrier return. The second line started with \n or the line feed and ended with carrier return. And the third line ended with also line feed. We can check this just by, or ensure that we are right, just by printing the len of our list, and we can see that the list, actually the length of the list is equal to 3 even if we have only 2 lines. Now if we set the new line value to carrier return and new line feed, there will be no issue because we already have that in our encoding or in our file. We already have carrier return and feed, so when it will run the code there will be no issue and we will have 2 lines as we are seeing here. And we can see here also, if we print our code or the content as it is without between it, we will see the content with the regular ending. We've seen the different values for the optional parameter new line when we read the file. Now what we are going to do is to see the difference when we write to the file. So first we make a change to the code. So I'm explaining right now the changes. I'm explaining right now the changes I made to the code. So first we read from our file, the first thing there. We print the content. We close our file here. Then we open the file for appending only. Here I set the mode to A T without a plus. So the new line parameter will be considered only when we will append or when we will write to the file. For the first reading, we set the new line character or the new line value to an empty string, to signify that we do not any translation. We want the values as they are. Close the file. We open for appending. Here we are going to change the value for new line to the different values we are going to test. We are going to set it to none, to an empty string or a line feed or \n, carriage return and carriage return and line feed, and to see the difference between these values. We will write the line to the screen. Then we will close our file. In fact, I forgot to add a closing here. And then we will open it for reading to see the results, the actual results after writing the line. But when we open the file, we will open it with the new line value set to the empty string again to see the values as they are. So here actually we have closed file, then open the file again. We are doing this only to see the difference values or the difference between the values set to the new line option and the results when writing to a file. First, we are going to set the values when we will open the file for appending. So we will set the new line value, not values, to none. If we see or read the documentation, if we set the value to none, any line feed character written are translated to the system default line separator that we can see by calling os.linesep. We've already called os.linesep and we've already seen that the official or the actual line separator is carriage return and line feed. This is why here we should see any \n character converted. Even if you use \n, we will see every \n character converted to this line separator, which is carriage return and line feed. So if I do this, I check my file that it has only 2 lines because I've tested already these values. So if I read the code, you can see even if I wrote 2 lines, this is the 3rd line and 4th line with the \n character, it was translated to the carriage return and line feed. Now if we set the new line to an empty string, according to the documentation, there will be no translation, so the character that we are going to use will be the ones used for the carriage return. You can see that here. For the first and second line, we have the previous end line encodings or the previous end lines. For the third and fourth line, the ones that we added here have the \n characters. You have to be careful because if you do that and you work on your file, for example, delete these lines again and try to write again, you will see later that even this ending, this file ending will change to \n. It is an unexpected result or expected behavior. So it happened to me. So in order to get it back again, all I had to do is to write the lines to carriage return and \n again. So it set it again to a default. This is the behavior. If we set it to an empty string, we can have the same results, I think, or as the documentation states, if we use the line feed. So if I do that, it had the same results, or the new lines added or the new lines added have the \n character as ending, a line ending. Now if I use carriage return, the documentation said if you use any of the legal values of the string for new line, any \n character written are translated to give a string. Even if you write in your code a backslash n character, you will have a translation. So if I have here in the appendix, not in the reading, if I have here a backslash r, even if in my lines I have a backslash n, and I write to my files, but I will see that the line added will end with a backslash r or carrier sheeter here, because they were translated. If I set it to backslash r backslash n carrier sheeter my feed, I will have the translation. This is not a good take to while manipulating files. We have different line endings in the same file because we changed the appending mode, but when we kept the new line of reading mode equal to empty sync, it kept the original encoding. But if we change it to, if you put it to none, it will translate to backslash n again. Now for the close FD option. If you have a file descriptor as a file, if you set it to false, the file, corresponding file, will not be closed when you call close. But if you set it, but if the file parameter is a string path, then it must be true. This is our case. We are using a path as file, so we set it to true. Now the opener. The opener is a function that you can use to open your file. In our case, our simple opener is a simple function that has the path parameter and the flags. So it will print simply a phrase opening a file before calling the actual open function. So this is an implementation of the function open in the OS module. So our open will call this function to open our file, but before it will print this phrase. So just to show the use of opener, so we can see here, each time we were opening a file, we had this thing, opening a file. Each time we called opener. So if I remove this, I don't call my opener. If I set it to none, is as in the documentation states, the default value is none. So if I set it to none, it will simply open the file without any message. So if I do this, I will have an opening. Each time I will open my file, I will have no message saying that I'm opening my file. That's it for this video. If you want to know about specific things that we've talked about in this video in details, please let me know in the comments below. Bye.